Okay, folks. What I want to do is cover just getting CSS style. We're going to add it to our bio page. And the first thing we want to do is go over our terms. Okay, the first thing I want to go over is how we do our cascading style sheets. First of all, put them in a style tag. So I'm going to go to line 7. Second, choose the tag you want to apply your styles. That is your selector. Okay, so I am going to make use of what's called the cascade, and I'm going to select the body tag. And the reason why is I've got all these other tags inside of it. I've got header 1s, header 2s, paragraphs, and the HR tag. So I'm going to write body. I'm going to put a space. I'm going to do an open curly bracket. If you hold shift down, it's just above and to the left of your enter key. Now, there are style guides on ways to code your CSS. The most common practice, and I think it's the most readable, and it's the way I like to do it, and it's one I would ask that you guys repeat and follow along, is to do the following. You create your selector. You have an opening curly bracket. Every declaration, and that is the property and its value, need to be each on their own line, and each one tabbed one to the right. Then, when we're done with our full declaration block, we close it with the curly bracket. Now notice the way I do this. I'm a little bit on the OCD side, and so what I do is I choose my selector, I open the curly bracket, hit enter 2 times, and close it so I don't forget. And the main reason I just don't want to forget, if I forget to close this, my next CSS style isn't going to work. It's going to be broken. So I go out here and I tab it over so it's easier for me to identify all of my declarations. So we're going to start with just font size. I'm going to start with 100%. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm going to save my changes. Before I do it, I want to highlight the fact that this is a colon, this is a semicolon. Okay? Colon in between your property, which is font size, and the value, which is 100%. Okay, so remember, selector is what we're going to change, property is what we want to change, and value is the exact change we're going to make to that property. Okay, so learn your terms, learn your syntax. This is an opening curly bracket. It's before a declaration block. This is a closing curly bracket. It comes after. Here is one declaration. I hereby declare that the font size is 100%. Okay, I'm going to save my changes. We're going to launch it so we can test it. We'll launch it in Chrome. And now, there's my page. Let me just move it over to the side so we can see. Sorry, guys. My mouse is buggy right now. Whoa, there we go. Now, I don't see a change yet because I set it to 100%. What if I set it down to 50%? Let's see what happens when I go back to my page. Okay, we don't want to do 50%. That's unreadable. And so just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So 50%, bad idea. Now let's try 86%. I'm going to click, we're going to save our changes and look at 86%. And now it's a little bit smaller, right? So if you don't like your font too big, you might want to change the body font size to 86%. And that's going to be 86% of the default size. And the default size is typically, I think it's 14 pixels or 14-point font. So just understand that it may vary, okay? But that's how we change it, okay? Now, let's talk about font family. If we don't like Times New Roman, which is the default font on browsers in a Windows computer, we can change it. We can change it to, for example, I don't recommend you do this. Again, just because you can doesn't mean you should. But let's just put it to chiller. And we hit refresh. And I've changed it. Okay. Now, the reason why I don't like chiller is, one, because it's kind of very specific to one kind of thing. It's your haunted house flyer, right? Every haunted house flyer that is done on a Windows where a person has seen chiller will use chiller the first few times. Okay? It looks like a kid did it, right? Because it's one that kids love everywhere across the world. Okay, chiller, you could do it, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. Not to mention, look at these paragraphs. We can't read that very well. So we're going to get rid of chiller, and we're not going to do that. We're going to try, let's try Helvetica. Doesn't everyone love Helvetica? Well, let's see what happens when we change it to Helvetica. I hit refresh. Hey, it worked. It must have Helvetica. Let's try Palatino. Hit refresh. And we're back. I think this is actually Times New Roman. The problem is we don't have that font. And since we don't have it, we can't see it. What's another? Let's try... I'm going to try another. Let's take a look at some of the fonts that are available. Okay, I am taking you to a web. Excuse me. I'm taking you to a web page called Revised Font Stack, awayback.com, Revised Font Stack, and I really want to take you here just so you can see the comparison of different fonts and what's available on a Mac, what's available on a window, what's a serif, what's a sans serif. So Helvetica happens to end up being on my computer. It worked. Let's look for one that I probably don't have. I'm going to try Gil Sans. Now, first things first. If you have a two-word font, you need to use a single or double quote around it so the browser can read the space. Save your changes and go back to the web page. Hit refresh. Nothing. It's because I don't have Gil Sans. So what we need is we need a default, a fallback if we don't have Gil Sans. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the font stack. A font stack is where we list out multiple fonts. We don't have Gil Sans. Maybe we have Tahoma. Save our changes. Hit refresh. And now I have Tahoma. It's just not Gil Sans. It's my second best option. But then the question becomes, what if the user doesn't have Tahoma? Okay, what we should probably do on a good font stack, you should include, and I'm going to set for this class, guys, I'm going to expect all font stacks to have at least 3 fonts, and I recommend 4. 5 are okay, but beyond that, it's a little excessive. Okay, so Gil Sans, Tahoma. Make sure you have a Mac font. Make sure you have a Windows font. And then make sure at the end you have a sans serif or a serif font. The other guideline I'm going to request that you all do for this class is that if this is a sans serif, all other fonts in the stack must be sans serif. So don't throw Times in the middle. Gil Sans, Times, sans serif, because that won't make sense. Times New Roman is a serif font. So you may be asking the difference between serif and sans serif. Let me show you an example. Okay, here's an example. Notice the best way to know the difference between sans serif and serif is look for the serifs. See on that A, you got a line at the bottom, another line. They're kind of like little feet. The F is a little bit more curled. We have a little serif up there on the L. We have them on the little S. So they're on different regions. And notice the difference between each letter. They don't have them on a sans. That's because the French word for without is sans, and it means without. There you go. Okay, one other thing I want to show you is at this point we've created a sans serif for the body tag, and we've applied it, and everything on the page has that font. One of the other things I want to show you is how to mix and match fonts. Before I do, I want to give you the guideline, and that is that the general recommendation is no more than 2 fonts per page. Okay, don't throw in 3 different fonts. It looks bad. It looks like you're just kind of throwing stuff together. It doesn't look like you've been very intentional about it. However, you can style paragraphs different from little block quotes, and you can have a header 1 be all caps and a header 2 be lowercase. So you can play around with it, but as far as font family goes, don't apply more than 2 font families on any given web project. It's just a good guideline. Next, let's change our headers. We have a header 1 and a header 2 on our pages. So if we want to select more than one tag, we separate them with a comma. H1, comma, H2. go ahead and let's add our own font stack. And this time, rather than typing it and choosing it for ourselves, let's go find a website that has examples of font stacks. We've got this site here, which allows us to look at a font, and this is a really good one. It's cssfontstack.com. Could you all go there in the class and pick a font you like by the way you see it? Notice there's other categories. We have monospace, we have serif, we have sans serif, we even have fantasy. They only give you 2 examples. Can I tell you that Papyrus to me is as ugly as Comic Sans? Brush Script is not any better. But that's my personal feel about it. Let's try, for example, Rockwell. Okay, we got Rockwell here. If I copy to the clipboard, it's going to copy a font stack for me. So then I can click OK. I can go to my page, and I can right-click and paste. And look at that for a font stack. Oh, I can get rid of that part. Rockwell, Courier Bold, Courier, Georgia, Times. Notice these are all serif fonts. Okay, we're going to save our changes, view it in the browser. I forgot where it is, so I'm just going to launch it again. Here we go. Notice my headers are the Rockwell font, and my paragraphs are whatever the other one was. Gill Sans, actually in my case it's Tahoma. And so this is a catch-all. So this makes sure no matter what, we're going to, at the very least, everything will have a Gill Sans or Tahoma or sans serif. And if it's not a head, if we want to override it on our headers, we can then select the headers here. If you want to override it on your paragraphs, you can select the paragraph as a tag, just like we did for body, H1 and H2.